Hey there, friends. How's it going? My name's Popeye. We got some more Umineko Chapter 3 for you today. Last time we learned a lot of backstory, alleged backstory, maybe I should say, about Beatrice. And if you can believe the information we've gotten from her latest servant, who can also apparently speak in Red now, then I guess we've learned a bit more about her. But allegedly, Beatrice existed as a human in 1967 in a hidden mansion that our grandfather built, where essentially Beatrice left her body and became a spirit of the ether as a witch. And then our grandfather used his magic to make her a homunculus body and trap her inside of that. Of course, Battler believes in absolutely none of this, and that makes Beatrice sad, but what's Battler going to do about it? And yeah, I think that was the major part. There was also a small chess battle at the very start, where Battler took to the start, basically because Beatrice didn't put up any defense to his attack, where he basically went all out and saying, prove me wrong, prove that there's exactly the, 18 people on this island, and Beatrice declines to put up any defense, which means Battler can assume an infinite number of people for now until a later point in time. And Rosa is having a bit of a mentee beef because she believes that she killed the Beatrice of old a much longer time ago. Not quite sure exactly how long ago, but I think we're just about to see, so let's get started. So Rosa eventually regained her calm. The men wanted to hurry her to talking faster, but Kyrie intervened. If something like she had just mentioned really had happened, it was an abominable past that she wouldn't want to remember. After taking several deep breaths with her hand over her chest, it seemed that she had more or less gathered the resolve to talk.
"いくつの時だったのかしら?多分、中学生か。よく覚えてない。
Middle school, so that's assuming it's the same age as in North America. Middle school is grades 7 to 9, so that puts you at 13, 14, or 15, somewhere in that range.
とにかく、そのくらいの頃だったと思うわ。
ってことは、だいたい20年くらい前ってとこ。
And if that's 20 years ago, that puts Rosa roughly at about 35-ish now.
あの頃の私は、あまり成績が良くなくて、私なりに努力していたつもりだったんだけど、お母様の期待には全然応えられなくて。
母上はローザにも随分厳しかったな。当時は同情していたよ。
陰口ばっかだったくせによく言うわね。
予算かエヴァ。それでローザさんはどこでベアトリーチェに会ったんや。
Even Hideyoshi's getting fed up with Eva's
秀吉さん、今はせかしてはダメよ。いいのよ、ローザさん。楽に話して。
ありがとう。あれは、お母様に特にひどく叱られた日よ。
Even though my tutor had promised to keep it a secret, apparently they told Mother all about how I had complained. Mother scolded me horribly, saying that I was a disgrace to the Ushiromiya family. Of course I was doing the best I could, but I had none of Kraus Nisan's dignity. I couldn't get excellent grades like Eva Nisan. I had no leadership like Rudolf Nisan. I never stood out, didn't particularly excel at anything. My cat wanted to hop up in front, so I can't read the rest. And I almost wanted to ask myself why I had even been born into the Ushiromiya family. I didn't know why I'd been born. On that day, I had the experience of my mind going blank for the first time. For the first time since I was born, I realized that in addition to facing or surrendering my problems, I had the third choice of running away. Even though I say run away, there was no way I could have left Rokenjima and gone somewhere else. But anyway, I wanted to run away from the mansion, and the way I was at the time. In a way, it's like running away from home, so maybe a half-hearted suicide? Suicide warnings for whatever's coming up next?
あるいはいなくなることによって親を心配させたいという子供なりの反抗だったのかも。私は森の遥か奥に行けば後宮の家から逃れられる。あるいは迷子になって心配させることで仕返しができると子供ながらに思ったの。
So she went into the forest.
それで、行ってはいけないと言われていた森に？
ええ。浜辺へ出てから海に沿うように。特に理由があったわけじゃないけれど。島をぐるりと回れば、その反対側には誰も知らない場所があって、私だけの隠れ家になるような気がしたの。
浜辺からぐるっとってのは無理だな。途中で崖になっちまうだろ。あんなとこ通れ。
もちろんよ。だから通れる方へとにかく奥へ進んだわ。道なんかないひどい森だったけど、あの時の
This
私
also
には
means that at the very least,
それが心地よかったの。
she's not going down a path that our grandfather went down. So there would be a worn path with how often he went to see Beatrice. It sounds like how often he just disappeared. Or he was always taking different routes each time, or just Rosa, as a, whatever, 14-year-old just didn't see the route. And it sounds like none of them actually saw the route that grandfather went down.
それほどの
Which
険
makes
し
you
い
think
森
he's
を
taking
抜けた
different
なら、
routes each time, or there's a secret
その分
tunnel or something.
後宮家から逃れられるって、そんな気持ちだったの。
情けないわね。成績で叱られたなら、その分努力すればいいのに。
それを言ってはいかんね。その代わり、ローザにはデザイナーとしての才能があったじゃないか。
Literally, this could be taken as him covering for Rosa, but everyone knew that Rosa's company was not making any profits.
よせよ。今は嫌味を言ってる場合じゃねえぜ。そして、偶然たどり着いちまったんだな。ベアトリーチェの隠し屋敷に。
Rosa nodded weakly.
どのくらい歩いたんや？地図で場所が示せるんか？夏井さん、この島の地図はあるかいな？
いえ、今ここにはありませんが。
無理よ。適当に歩いただけだもの。地図を見せられたってわからないわ。それに、あれから20年も経ってる。多分森へ行っても、二度とたどり着けないわ。
Several people let out dejected sighs. It was vividly clear that in their haste they had thought that some hint related to the witch's epitaph, or maybe even the gold itself, might be resting there in that hidden mansion.
六軒島はこの屋敷の周りが整地されているだけに過ぎねえ。他は完全に未開で、前頭測量は相当の手間がかかるだろうな。
でも、確かに存在すると分かっただけでも収穫よ。お金はかかるだろうけど、例えば航空写真の会社に調査を頼むとか、このお屋敷を建設した業者に当時のことを聞くとか、調べる方法はあるかもしれないわね。そうね。あるかないかもわからないものを探すよりは、まだ方法があるはずよ。
But you're also not getting aerial photography or those contractors this weekend before you all die.
早速調べる価値があるだろう。
その調査は兄弟合同でやるわよ。兄さん一人ではさせないわ。
So it wasn't certain that the gold was hidden in that secret mansion, but it seemed that the fireworks between Kraus and Eve had already
兄貴た
begun.
ち、今はよせよ。ローザ、続きを話してくれ。
Psy Chorus is the name of the song, which if you rearranged where the dash was, it could be Psycho are us. Oh, I did not read that out loud. Blindly, randomly, I kept running on and on. Suddenly, I felt like I had come across something, like an animal trail. An animal trail where they had put stakes into the ground and put ropes between it. How did no one find this? I had no idea how far I'd walked. I was very tired. By then, I was just naturally taking the easiest path to walk on. As I did, suddenly, right before my eyes, a very, very tall fence appeared. It was a fence, wonderfully adorned in a Gothic style. For an instant, I spun around, thinking that I might have returned to the original mansion. Of course, there were fences around the mansion to stop us from entering the forest. But this fence was decorated differently. And most of all, it was very tall. Okay, so we also learned that there are fences near the forest as well. It probably reached a full 2 stories up, so it's about a 20-foot tall fence. Jeez, okay. It was covered with ivy and created a mysterious, solemn atmosphere. At the time, I believed the legend of the Witch of the Forest, Beatrice. I've been told that she was frightened. Some of the servants told me that she would sometimes help you if you respected her. Since I had started to lose confidence in how my life was going, I believed that the only way I could be saved was by receiving her help. So that's what made me think it. I believe that this fence of the mansion of Beatrice, the Witch of the Forest. I thought that if I could meet with Beatrice, she would definitely save me. So I thought I would try to go in. But that fence was very, very tall, and it didn't look like I could go over it. So I decided to walk around it. I thought that if I did, I would eventually reach a gate. But it wasn't that easy. The fence had a length to match its height, and no matter how far I went, I didn't reach a corner. It might have been enclosing a very massive area, or maybe it just felt that way because my child legs made it difficult to walk in the forest. Anyway, because I couldn't find a gate for a while, I started to feel sad as though the witch had rejected me. As I did, I eventually came upon a large tree whose twisted root had bent the fence. I might get my clothes dirty, but if I crawled, it looked like I would be able to sneak in.
そこが隠し屋敷だったの。
あれが私たちの言う隠し屋敷なのかは
The
わ
fact
から
that this
ない。
mansion is massive means that no one ever really went looking in this forest.
でも少なくとも私たちの知る場所ではなかったわ。
It wasn't as though I came out into a garden as soon as I passed the fence. I had to continue through a lot more uncultivated forest after that. It's also strange that she was on a path that took her to the fence, but she never found the gate. But presumably because there's a path there, that's where grandfather was going through. So maybe she just didn't see the gate. It was very well hidden and built in. And the forest suddenly opened up. What appeared there was an unbelievably fantastical scene. To think that Rokkenjima, where I believe no one other than us lived, had been hiding such a wonderful mansion. A beautiful flower garden spanned the front of the mansion. It was a flower garden with a completely different design from the rose garden we knew so well. It was very lovely. Of course, the mansion was also wonderful. It was 1 or 2 sizes smaller than ours, but it was very elegant and yet lovely mansion. And then I saw her. I saw her sitting in a garden chair, positioned to give a view of the flower garden, wearing an elegant dress. It was the black dress embroidered with gold that we would later know from that portrait. I hadn't seen an elegant dress like that except in fairy tales and on the stage of musicals. That a person would be wearing it as their normal clothes, that in itself seemed quite fantastical. That magical scene was enough to make me lose my sense of reality. If someone had told me that it was a dream, I might have nodded obediently and waited to wake up in my bed. Since, in my shock, I had forgotten to hide myself, she eventually noticed me. At first, her expression was quite listless. When she noticed me, her eyes opened very wide. It was only natural, a guess that she didn't know had suddenly appeared. I automatically bowed my head, feeling I should greet her and apologize for entering without permission.
そなたは誰か新しい庭師なのか
Those were the first words she said to me. That calmed me down a bit, because I realized that she could be talked with. Because I hadn't turned into a frog just by meeting her eyes like the terrifying witch in that fairy tale. Also, the fact that she's asking new gardener means that there were already gardeners there, so she's used to other people appearing. Somehow, grandfather had been sneaking people in and out of this, which, I mean, we already knew, because we'd surmised that he must be sneaking, like, food, water, like, oil for lamps and stuff, assuming he didn't have electrical ported all the way out here.
勝手にお庭に立ち入って、すみません。
そなたは誰か名乗るがよい。
後ろ宮ローザと言います。
後ろ宮。ほう、金蔵の一族の人間なのか？
はい、金蔵の娘です。こんにちは。
I was just a little surprised. After all, father was a great man feared by everyone, and she had referred to him without using honorifics, so she quickly became frightening. After all, if she could refer to my fearsome father that way, she must be a witch with incredible power. After staring at me curiously, she beckoned me to come over to her. And I obeyed, although I was filled with belated trepidation. After all, I thought I really might be turned into a frog. The closer and closer I got, the stronger that fear became. After all, I said it several times already, but that woman in her dress in the flower garden in the mansion, that entire harmony was so fantastical and beautiful that it seemed separate from reality. It surely wouldn't have surprised me, even if she was actually a witch. I was truly lucky. She didn't turn me into a frog. As I awkwardly stood there, still, she motioned to an open chair and urged me to sit down.
座るがよい。初めて訪れた者を庭へ招き、語らうのが、わらわの唯一の楽しみよ。他に、何の楽しみもないがな。
As she said that, she showed an unhappy smile for just an instant. Because I was full of a strange mix of tension and excitement, I rudely asked her a question.
森の魔女、ベアトリーチェですか？
いかにも、わらわがベアトリーチェである。
やはりな。ベアトリーチェは実在したんだ。
その姿は、まさに肖像画の。
ええ、まさに、あの肖像画の通りよ。
お父さんの想像の中の魔女じゃなかったんやな。
それで、あなたは彼女と何を話したの？
彼女は、お茶を入れながら、私のことをいろいろと聞いたわ。まず、森を抜けてやってきたことを驚かれた。彼女は、柵の外には危険な狼がたくさんいると信じていたみたいだった。だから、私が森を抜けてたどり着いたと言ったら、どうやって狼から逃れたのか、ビスケットを渡して許してもらったのか、それとも、魔法の街灯をかぶって、なんて感じのことを言ってたっけ？
そりゃ確かに魔女っぽいわな。面白いお人や。
あなた黙って。ずいぶん昔だけど、お父様は、森には狼が住んでいるから近寄ってはならないって。
ああ、そんなこともあったな。バカらしいね。日本の狼はとっくの昔に絶滅しているというのに。まさに子供騙しだな。
記憶にねえな。そんな話。親父に聞かされたっけ？森には魔女だろ？狼なんて話、聞いたことないぜ。
あんたがまだ小学校だった頃よ、覚えてない？ そしたらあんた、むしろ狼を撫でてみたいなんて言い出すもんだから、お父様はすぐに狼の話を引っ込めて、魔女の話に切り替えたのよ。もう、その嘘っぽいことと言ったら。
But there was in fact a witch in the forest.
当時のルドルフには、狼よりも魔女の話の方がてきめんだったね。よく覚えているよ。私の背中にしがみついた夜があったことを覚え。
ルドルフさんにも、そんな可愛らしい時代があったのね。
うるせえな。子供の頃の話だぜ。
まあ、とにかく、ベアトリーチェを閉じ込めていたのがお父さんなら、同じ狼の話をするのは道理ね。彼にとって六軒島の広大な森は、後宮家と愛人の屋敷という、相入れない二つの異世界を分断する、越えてはならない壁だったのだから。
柵の高さを考えると、どうやら親父殿は、庭ごと丸々を座敷牢にしたようだな。さながら、二つの世界を分ける国境も同然だったのだろう。
狼はともかく、野犬の類でもいたのではありませんか？そのための策だったかもしれません。
六軒島に狼も野犬もいないわ。その策は、兄さんやキリエさんの言うように、ベアトリーチェと私たちの間の国境だったんでしょうね。
しかし、狼の話を素直に信じるなんて、なんちゅうか、純朴やな。わしの想像していた魔女とは随分違う感じやで。
そうね。それは私も感じたわ。とても尊大で、確かに魔女のイメージ通りの人だったんだけど、どこか、とても子供っぽくて、なんていうのか、素直すぎるというか。世間知らずな印象を受けたわ。例えるなら、本当におとぎの国の人みたいというか、本当に不思議な人だったわ。
それからどうしたんだ？親父の話とかは出たのか？
ええ、何日かに一度。約束されている日もあれば、ふらりとお父様が訪れては、一緒にお茶を飲んだり、散歩したりしたんですって。私が訪れたその日は、たまたま彼女一人だったと言っていたわ。
There we go. We're back.
なるほどな。まさに愛人といったところ。やれやれ。いくつ年下か知らんが、親父殿もやるね。
いかがわしい意味での交流はなかったと確信しています。
バカね。男と女の多さに色気がないはずないじゃない。それでどうしたの？それから何の話を？
私の自己紹介をしたので、逆に彼女のことを質問したわ。そうしたら、
Why did you kill her, Rosa?
なんていうのか、とても気だるそうな、寂しそうな、私が、初めて彼女の顔を見た時に浮かべていたのと、同じ表情だった。
まあ、秘密の愛人だからな。好き勝手に歩かれて、お袋に見つかっちまったらことだ。きっと軟禁に近い状態だったろう。綺麗なドレスに、綺麗な屋敷や庭があっても、さぞや窮屈な思いをしてたんだろうぜ。そりゃ苦労もあったろうさ。それで？
彼女は、きっと何か悩みがあった。それを、私に話したところで、何の解決にもならない。私も、とても、私と一緒にいることさえ、忘れてしまったかのようで、遠くをぼんやり見ながら、ずっと、無言でいたわ。私はきっと、出現してしまったに違いないと思ったんだけど、謝罪の言葉すらも口にしていいような雰囲気じゃなくて。だから私も、彼女が私と一緒にいることを思い出してくれるまで。
When she did, she muttered unexpectedly.
柵の向こうには、本当に狼などおらぬのか？
はい。狼なんて動物園でも見たことないです。
動物園とは何か？
いろんな動物が飼われているところです。象とかキリンとかパンダとか。
動物園に狼はいないのか？
なら怖くないかもしれんな。狼がいたとしても動物はみんな檻に入ってますから安全です。だから安心して見学できるんですよ。
The Witch of the Forest of all people was for some reason scared of and didn't like wolves. I remember it looked pretty comical.
それはわらわとどう違うのか？
She didn't even know about zoos. I explained how fun zoos can be. It's very difficult to get a person like her who had never been to one to understand. Quite the opposite. As I explained to her, her expressions were increasingly dismal. She couldn't see the difference. It seemed that, although this mansion was surrounded by high fence, appeared at a glance to afford her completely provided for life of comfort. She couldn't see how she was different from the animals shut up in cages.
わらわは何者なのか？皆はわらわのことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。それは確かに、そなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかし、それはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。わらわは、その魔女の魂を、好みに封じられているだけなのだ。
There was definitely something mysterious about her. It wasn't just that she was somehow at odds with the world. It seemed that she truly believed that a thing called magic actually exists. I think she talked about various weird things, but I don't remember the details. All I thought was, this might be a pitiful person. She was unable to leave the mansion of her own will, a prisoner without even realizing it. And she didn't know anything about the outside world, didn't even understand who she was. She probably vaguely understood herself that she was pitiful. But since she didn't know anything, it seemed that she couldn't realize that this was unhappiness. May-san, long ago when I told you that I felt sorry for a bird in a cage, I remember you said this to me. A bird that only knows the inside of a cage doesn't long for the outside. But she wasn't a bird. She was ultimately a human. Even if she'd never been outside the cage, she understood that it wasn't the whole world. So I invited her.
柵の外へ出てみますか？
本当に狼はいないのか？
いないですよ。絶対平気ですから。
出たいぞ。
Unless grandfather has cursed her if she ever leaves.
いつも門は閉まっている。
私が入ってきたところがあります。くぐり抜けられる隙間があるんです。
そこを抜ければ、外の世界があるのか？
はい。
狼は、本当にいない？
はい、いませんよ。
I had only planned to invite her for a short walk, but she kept looking over her shoulder at the mansion, as though she were seriously deliberating over something. Then I learned what she was preparing herself for.
わらわは、もうここは嫌だ。外へ。出たい。そしてわらわが何者で、この世界はどうなっていて、わらわは何のために生まれてきたのかを。
I didn't know what her life had been like until then. It was probably something that she couldn't express easily. It was harsh, she just had to say that she wanted to escape. It was sweet, she just had to say that she would stay. To liken it to something, perhaps it was similar to how a hot fireplace on a winter day makes the air get thicker and thicker, giving you a headache. Even though you know that you shouldn't keep things the way they are, you still need the courage to open the window and be tormented by the cold wind. She was starting to realize that she couldn't stay there forever. She was starting to realize that she had to go outside sometime. But since she didn't know about the outside world, to take the first step outside must have required an unimaginable amount of courage. she had to take that into consideration and resolve herself. She had to put that resolution to go outside into words, for that was surely the first time in her entire life. I hesitated slightly. It had been decided that she would live here by father. It was as if she were father's beloved bird in a cage. If I just let her escape, wouldn't I be harshly scolded by
見たい
father?。
何を動物園が見たいのだ。
I was just a little surprised when she finally showed me a very soft smile. Unfortunately, we'll have to see more about her daring escape next time. Yeah, take care, stay safe, and next time we'll learn more about Beatrice.